Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Remember 11. Let's just carry on, shall we? Without further ado. I returned to my room and ventilated it, just as Utsumi had said. Things are getting interesting now that we got all the connections starting to come together, you know? I throw open the window. Cold air rushes into the room. Unintentionally, I begin to shudder. I confirm the time. 4:06 PM. About 10 minutes had passed from the time the transfer took place until I reached the room, so the current transfer occurred at 3:56 PM. Sitting on the bed, I heaved a deep sigh. Do coincidences like that really happen? Not really. A man with whom I flew on the same plane and with whom I experienced the accident, Yomogi Seiji. The woman I met while experiencing a mysterious phenomenon of the personality exchange, Utsumi Kali. Amazingly, the two of them were married. Was this simply a coincidence? I didn't think this was something that could be explained away by chance, but rather due to a large force at work. I felt like something was going to happen, as if someone was plotting everything. But who was that someone? Was it God? Incidentally, I've heard of something like this before. The primordial age, when there was no life on Earth. There were only soups of amino acids in the oceans, which were the origin of life. Before long, those amino acids began to chain together and thus life was born. However, even if they tried to recreate the conditions of the original ocean inside a test tube, it seems that, as far as the creation of life is concerned, it never goes very well. It's said that the creation of life by the union of drifting amino acids occurred by a coincidence of astronomical probability. The explanation of the scientist who introduced this left people with a strange impression of him. If we assume that God exists, then it may be that the one who gave birth to life by assembling these amino acids should be thought of as God. The phenomenon that I'm experiencing right now may have a probability of occurring as low as the beginning of life itself. However, I can't think of this coincidence as being caused by anything other than someone's deliberate actions. Not only because of the coincidence of Yomogi and Utsumi being married, but because the coincidences keep on occurring one after another. The son from Yomogi's marriage, Junichi, was killed 2 years earlier by Inabushi Kaiko, and now Inabushi Kaiko was right here, in SPHIA, living alongside Utsumi. For these coincidences to continue would just be too sad, I thought. Utsumi thinks that girl is Suzukage Hitori. Believing that, she dedicated herself to taking care of her. But what would Utsumi think if she knew that she was the Inabushi Kaiko, the target of her dead son's grudge? As if deflating my chest, I let out a deep breath. If God exists, then I'm being so cruel. And it's an innocently ignorant cruelty, like that of a child who catches insects and pulls their legs off. Here I am, praying that Utsumi doesn't realize that Suzukage Hitori is really Inabushi Kaiko. When does she find out? When she does find out, I don't know what will happen, but there's no mistake that it'll be disastrous. By the way, here's what I think. I don't think there's any mistaking that Suzukage Hitori is really Inabushi Kaiko. Hitori was one of the DID personalities that dwelled within Inabushi Kaiko. I think that's been proven by her testimony. She used the metaphor of a dark room, and there were occasions where other personalities had appeared, so there's no two ways about it. It's just that in Inabushi Kaiko's case, except for the original personality and Suzukage Hitori, I don't know the names of the other personalities. Because her current personality hasn't told me her name, it's difficult to guess. I can only deduce it from her behaviour. Moreover, her DID personality changes aren't signalled by any actions and occur abruptly. It's the same as what Yuni told me about the instant that I returned from Yukido Satoru's body to Fuyukawa Kokoro's. There was no alteration whatsoever. To confirm a personality change from outward appearances alone is difficult. I don't think I've met any of the personalities except the one named Hitori. But in reality, there may have been a period when she was Inabushi Kaiko, or that I've already met the personality of the murderous monster that killed Junichi without realizing it. There's even a possibility that the personality of the murderer will go unnoticed until the moment it attacks someone. I looked at my left arm that had been injured by someone and shuddered. It was at that instant. Satoru, do you have a moment? Yuni's head popped out from behind the door. He was wearing an amiable smile. Hey Satoru, why'd you open the window? It's cold. He quickly jumped to the window and shut it with great force. Rubbing his hands together, he shivered slightly. Something wrong? Do you need anything? About the radio. Did you find out anything interesting? The smile on Yuni's face was replaced with a troubled expression. That tone. Are you Kokoro now? Yep. Well, whatever. If Kokoro is really inside Satoru, it involves you anyway. What do you mean it involves me? Yeah. Yuni moved next to me on the bed, sitting close enough for our shoulders to touch. He showed me the radio. I've been listening to the radio for a while now, but it's weird. How so? I was on an airplane that fell 4 days ago. There should be more news on it. Are they not broadcasting anything about it? Yuni switched the radio on. He twisted the tuning knob. A song started to flow from the radio. It was a popular singer's hit song from the Red and White Song Contest at the end of last year, 2010. I've been listening for over an hour and it's been nothing but stuff like this. I've already flipped through a couple of stations and they were more or less the same. A plane crash is a huge incident, so there should be more broadcasts about it. That is weird, right? An airplane accident is a big deal. You'd think they would broadcast more about it on the news, and of course 4 days have passed since the accident occurred. It's an event that's likely to be all over the news, but they shouldn't have found a single survivor yet. Obviously because we're still here in the shelter cabin. However, the news has yet to even touch upon it, so what does this mean? Annoyed, Yuni shut off the radio. I bit my lip lightly. The TV's no good either. Is there no news on the plane crash? There's a television in the living area. No, it doesn't show anything besides weird pictures. Like a flowing river or a bird singing in the forest. Or stuff like weird Buddhist priests saying stuff about being grateful. What's up with that? It's not useful at all. Now that he mentions it, I feel like it was the same when I tried it yesterday. Wondering what was going on, it suddenly dawned on me. This was SPHIA, the Specified Psychiatric Hospital for Isolation and Aegis. They probably don't show regular broadcasting in order to prevent mentally ill patients from becoming overstimulated. They show environmental broadcasting in order for them to not feel confined, even when shut in by the snow for the winter. Would being preached to by a priest do an unruly patient any good? Yuni impatiently stared at the radio. Even though I want to know what happened to Kokoro, the Kokoro that he mentioned didn't refer to me. He was probably worried about the well-being of the uyukawa Kokoro trapped at the shelter cabin. I tried asking Yuni once again. You remember the plane crash, right Yuni? Yeah, even if I want to forget, I couldn't. When did the accident happen? What year? What month? What day? Wearing a slightly unpleasant expression, Yuni answered my questions. The year 2011, January the 11th. You're supposed to be Kokoro, right? Don't ask such obvious things. He stood up angrily. I don't know if it's an illness you have or whatever, but I'm really worried about Kokoro. Don't try to confuse me. Spitting out these words like a piece of gum that had lost its flavour, Yuni turned on his heel and walked away. Yuni! He left the room, not responding to my call. Yuni. He was really worried about me. That much was certain. The Yuni that was just here was without a doubt the same one that rode beside me on the airplane, and the same one that was beside me when it crashed. I didn't forget either. I'm certain that I was grasping Yuni's hand inside the airplane as it crashed. Even now I can still clearly remember the feeling of his small hand trembling in mine. The Yuni from before and I both experienced a plane crash together on January 11th, 2011. Agreed. So what does this mean? Did the Yuni from before, the Yuni at SPHIA, jump here right after the accident? If so, who was the Yuni presently at the shelter cabin? After thinking it over for a while, I reached a single hypothesis. Yuni is undergoing personality exchanges after all. On the second day, even though I talked about what foods I liked at SPHIA, the Yuni at the shelter cabin knew them. From that I deduced that Yuni was undergoing personality exchanges as well, or maybe teleportation. However, at that time, I didn't know that the time periods between SPHIA and the shelter cabin were different, so that deduction was abandoned. But, in regards to Yuni, when considering the difference in time periods, I thought the completely entangled thread had more or less begun to unwind. Putting aside the radio and the newspaper for now, you can guess the year from people's testimonies. At SPHIA, the ones who said it was year 2011 were Hattori and Yuni. However, it feels like I can discard these two testimonies. Hattori, Inabushi Kaiko has DID, so it's possible that she isn't aware of what year it is. After all, there's even a child's personality dwelling inside her. It wouldn't be odd for her sense of what year it is to be off. And then there's Yuni. From the conversation with him before, I can't think of any other explanation than him transferring here from the accident. And therefore, his statement that this was the year 2011 is a given. the statement from Satoru and Utsumi that this is the year 2012 are correct. If you exclude the radio that broadcasts it being 2011 and the newspaper that had information about the future written on it. In the world of SPHIA, it's 2012. In the world of the shelter cabin, it's 2011, is what it means. Satoru and I are under the assumption that our two personalities are jumping through time and space in our exchange, and on top of that, might Yuni's personality be exchanging as well? Unlike us, the 2012 Yuni and the Yuni from right after the plane crash are being exchanged, switching back and forth into the same body of Kusuda Yuni. Huh. This just got a whole lot more confusing. I need to sort things out. Let's try to trace Yuni's movements. First off, Yuni was caught up in an airplane crash on January 11th, 2011. However, I don't know when, but he was saved somewhere. What was the cause and effect that brought the rescued Yuni to SPHIA, and passing through into the year 2012? And this is where it gets complicated, but the future Yuni at SPHIA in 2012 and the past Yuni that survived the plane crash in 2011 are switching between one another. Right now, the Yuni here at SPHIA in the year 2012 is the Yuni immediately following the plane crash, and the Yuni at the shelter cabin right now can be otherwise referred to as future Yuni. But wait a second, our personalities have exchanged a number of times already. Why is Yuni only transferred once? No, I don't know yet if it was only once. However, it didn't appear that their personality exchange happened very frequently. I still don't have a very good grasp on the rules of personality exchange. What an irritating feeling. This is probably what they call the feeling of chewing on sand. However, even though I don't know the rules of the personality exchange, there's one thing I do know. Thinking that it's the year 2012 at SPHIA and 2011 at the shelter cabin would be best. The contradiction with the newspaper and radio has yet to be settled, but I should make sure to keep in mind that SPHIA is in 2012 and the shelter cabin is in 2011. So with that decided, what should I do now? I think it's a little bit presumptuous to decide that. I should ask Yuni first. I decided to ask whether he was the future Yuni that had transferred here once I got back from the shelter to the shelter cabin. Will he know what that means? The next day I was standing in the snowfield. The snow reflected the setting sun, dazzling my eyes. My shoulders heaved as I drew breath, as though I'd been exercising strenuously. My exhalations hung in the air, white clouds that almost looked as though I could reach out and grab them. What happened? Satoru, what did you do? Yuni screamed out, sounding frightened. He was running as if to flee the shelter cabin, heading for the grove of trees. Yuni? Surprised at seeing him in this unusual state, I started to run after him. What happened, Yuni? Yuni, wait! It was hard to run in that snow. My feet sank another 30 centimeters into the snow with every step. And gradually I began to feel my strength depleting. Hey, wait! Following in the footprints he left, I pressed on. Having reached the grove of trees, Yuni slipped in the snow and fell. He smacked his head on a tree root that had been hidden under the snow. Yuni, you alright? I caught up with Yuni. I helped Yuni, his body half covered in snow, stand up. It hurts, it hurts! He rubbed his forehead. It seemed that he'd hit it when he fell down. Let me have a look at it. Yuni had gotten back to his feet, but his hair was sticking out every which way. I gently brushed away the snow clinging to it. There was no injury to his forehead. You wouldn't see it unless you looked closely, but there was an odd scar there. He hadn't got that just now, had he? It's okay, you're not bleeding. But it hurts. Yuni's eyes were filling with tears as he tried to withstand the pain. Really, you're a boy, aren't you? Come on, don't cry. But, come on, there's no help in it. I gave Yuni a little kiss on the forehead. Pain, pain, fly away to Andromeda. What the heck is that? Yuni smiled shyly. His cheeks were turning red, and I don't think it was just because of the setting sun. Don't say such an embarrassing thing. But hasn't the pain gone away? Yeah. He mumbled it, but I could still hear him softly say that. Thanks, Kokoro. Smiling, I nodded and pulled him back to his feet. Why is it to Andromeda? Because it's more romantic that way. I brushed the snow from his clothes. As though to confirm something, Yuni asked me a question. You're Kokoro now, right? That's right. After hearing that, a somewhat imprudent expression of relief came to Yuni's face. By the way, why were you running away? What happened? Because... He hesitated. I don't know why it's so hard for him to say, but it was most likely something that had happened in the shelter cabin. Just then I heard a scream from the cabin. Hey, what the heck are you doing, Mayuzumi? Oi, knock it off. When I heard that scream, Okay. Is Mayuzumi trying to kill Yomogi now? We better hurry back to the cabin. Come on. We looked at each other. Let's go back to the cabin. Yeah. Following the trail of footprints we left, we headed back toward the cabin. Fingers crossed that everyone's alive. What I saw when we returned to the shelter cabin took my breath away. A dreadful scene had unfolded there. Something dark red was smeared around the edges of Mayuzumi's mouth, and beside her, Yomogi had fallen to the floor. The stains around Mayuzumi's mouth were blood? No, she couldn't have. To Yomogi-san? To answer my questions, Mayuzumi looked around the edges of her mouth. The maddened eyes she looked at me with looked like those of a wounded beast. Such a thing. No. People who are stranded after an accident and run out of provisions, they fall into a horrible state like this. What horrifying thought had become lodged in my mind. Before such a scene of shattered human dignity, my lips began to tremble. But she's turning into a Wendigo. I'm fine. Yomogi slowly picked himself up off the floor. In my relief, my legs lost their strength and I dropped to the floor on my knees. Oh, thank goodness. What goodness? What happened? That woman, she ate all the chocolate herself. I took my eyes off her for one moment and she stole it right out of my bag. And when I confronted her about it, she pushed me down like this. Shit. Yomogi stood and dusted off his knees, scowling at Mayuzumi. Huh? Yuni drew closer to Mayuzumi. I don't know how you could do such a thing. That's everyone's food, isn't it? I was just thinking, if only you weren't all here, you wouldn't eat it. So those dark red stains around her mouth, they were chocolate. Why didn't we throw her out into the snow fucking days ago? Fuck this woman. She wiped them off with one finger and then licked it clean. That's not how it is at all. Were you just putting on an act to try and sabotage us all? Sabotage? Unless we all cooperate, none of us will survive, you know. Why? Why would you do such a selfish thing? Mayuzumi turned towards me with an insolent smile, as though she were trying to start a fight. Why? Don't you know perfectly well why? Simple arithmetic. With only this one last chocolate bar, we won't survive even if we divide it up equally. But if I eat it myself, I can go on living. Just me. So I ate it. We decided together, right? We're letting Yomogi-san manage the provisions. You have this much confidence in that old fart. I know it. When the going gets tough, this geezer will abandon all of us. What the hell do you think you're saying? I saw it myself when the plane crashed. You, before you found me, you also found another person who was still breathing, didn't you? But you abandoned them. Even though they were still alive, you didn't even try to help them. Isn't that right? Yomogi took a long, deep breath, and when he finally spoke, his voice was filled with pain. His face, darkened by 4 days' worth of stubble, distorted in anguish. That's right, but there was shrapnel from the plane sticking out of that person's chest. I didn't think there was anything I could do for them. Look, just look at this. Mayuzumi thrust a finger at Yomogi as though in triumph. She can't take the fucking moral high ground. What is she thinking? This bastard didn't think there's anything he could do for that person, so he simply threw them away. You're trying to throw everyone away. Don't you think it's idiotic to let a bastard like him be in charge of the food? We're all weaker than he is. He'll get rid of all of us as soon as we give him the chance. That... I could feel my own voice turning shaky with rage. My nails dug painfully into the palm of my hands, but I dug them in even harder as I yelled out, Yomogi-san even saved you, didn't he? Even when he saved you. How can you say such horrible things about him? I thought you'd say that. Just because he saved me, I have to listen to everything he says? I'm not just screwing around here. Certainly Yomogi-san did rescue me, but that's all. He has no right to order around the me that's here today. Have you no gratitude at all towards him? Of course I'm grateful. If we make it out of here alive, I'll even let him do it with me once. But in order for that to happen, we have to get back home alive first, you know? Don't fuck with me. In my anger, I lost control and struck out at Mayuzumi. Staggering, Mayuzumi crashed into the wall. What the hell do you think you're doing? Mayuzumi got back on her feet and grabbed me. Sharp pain raced through my body as she pulled my hair. You know, I hate naive little princesses like you more than anything in the world. Never knowing hardship, growing up leading such comfy, carefree lives. Why didn't you just die? If you did, there'd be one less mouth we'd have to feed. In retaliation, I grabbed Mayuzumi by the collar. Trembling, shaking her back and forth, I answered her. As long as we're on the subject, you should just disappear. Life would be so much easier if you weren't here. If only you weren't here. Cut it out. Yomogi forced his way between us. Yuni too was clinging to my back, murmuring in a barely audible voice. Stop it, Kokoro. But My eyes became blurry with tears of frustration and sorrow. Burying my face in Yomogi's chest, I wailed loudly. The things Mayuzumi said were unforgivable, and I couldn't believe what I'd blurted out. That it would be better if she weren't here. Tears came streaming down my cheeks. I mean, it would be a lot better if she weren't here. Looking at me in this state, Mayuzumi spat these words at me. You're so naive. Do you think somebody is going to come save you if you cry? People like you are always the first to die. Mayuzumi continued while sneering at me. In the first place, thinking that when things are rough, you have to work together is just an illusion. You know, in this world, you get by trampling on other people. It's survival of the fittest. That's right, it's just as you say. I was a complete idiot for risking my life to save you. So what are you going to do? Will you kill me now? No, I may be an idiot, but until my final moments, I plan to stay human. So I won't deceive myself with such a farce. Fun. Mayuzumi snorted through her nose and leaned against the wall. Wait a minute. I stopped crying and Yomogi helped me sit on the bed. Then he sat down on the bed too, along with Yuni. We'd already used the table and chairs for firewood, so there was nothing else in the room to sit on. Saying that someone should be the sole food manager, why did we give up on that? Mayuzumi, who had sat down facing away from us, now sneaked a sidelong glance at Yomogi. Let's divide the remaining food into 4 equal parts and take care of our own share individually. Yomogi produced a hardtack biscuit from his bag. Only 2 cans of emergency rations were left, and those comprised our entire food supply. Yomogi opened one of the cans with a psht sound. The contents of the can were exposed to the air. That sound was as though a starter pistol had been fired to signal our unstopping march toward the edge of a cliff. Mayuzumi, divide your portion into 4 shares. Me? Yeah, you divide it into 4 and we'll choose what we want from it. You can have whichever one is left. Even though it's unfair to me, you're saying I have to stick it out and divide my share up, huh? Yeah, that's right, because you're always the first to complain about it. He brought out the now empty can that had held the biscuits. Carefully, as though carrying out a mock scientific experiment, Mayuzumi divided the biscuits into 4 shares. Yomogi, Yuni, and I each chose from the 3 of them. Mayuzumi picked up the last one. Then, hoarding it to her chest, she gritted her teeth at us and glared. This one's mine, so don't go try and steal it, okay? That's big talk coming from a thief like you. Shut the hell up, brat. Human beings will do anything they can in order to live, you know. Sighing deeply, Yomogi said, These rations, today? If we really economise, they might hold out until tomorrow. From then on, we'll be out of food. Each of us should choose to eat with that in mind. That small empty can, with only half a biscuit placed in it, it made me feel very uncertain. Can I live on and only this? An uneasy feeling spread through my chest like a lethal poison. There's really not much left, is there? Sounding worried himself, Yuni peered into the can. I just knew nobody would want to share. You start feeling uneasy as the food supply runs low, right? That anxiety, it becomes a burden. Anxiety is the killer of hope, and with despair comes fear, and fear will bring you to ruin. Muttering this regretfully, Yomogi gently stroked Yuni's hair. Don't worry. I know you're already worried, but try not to dwell on it. Seiji. Her face had been expressionless, but I suddenly saw Mayuzumi's eyebrows shoot up. Idiotic. With her precious can under her arm, Mayuzumi turned back toward the bed. As she wrapped herself up in the blanket, her body began trembling. Biting her nails, she began muttering in complaint, her words so faint that they rarely reached my ear, where my ears were. I'm gonna live. I can't die until I meet that person. I can't die. There's no way I'm gonna die. I'll live. I'll live through this. A strong attachment to life. Hearing that muttering that fell from her lips like a curse, I turned and ran for the basement storeroom. The basement storeroom was deathly quiet. When I first came to look around here, it had seemed that there were stores of food and fuel in abundance, but now not a trace of anything remains. Until now, my main concerns were the personality exchanges and attacks at SPHIA, but I realised that the situation at the shelter cabin had grown just as urgent. Death was drawing closer. You're so naive. People like you are always the first to die. Her words repeated themselves in my mind. The hand holding the can that contained what was left of my rations was shaking hard. The few remaining biscuits danced inside the can with a clatter. My stomach was so empty it hurt. I hadn't eaten anything since last night. I'm so hungry. My trembling fingers picked up a biscuit and threw it into my mouth. I chewed slowly, then swallowed it with great care. I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, as if it were yelling at me that this wasn't nearly enough. At this rate, if help doesn't come, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? Tears started to obscure my vision. I was scared. Very, very. The faces of my friends and my parents back home appeared in my mind. The peaceful campus life I'd enjoyed not long ago had disappeared from my mind. I don't want to die. Tears began to fall. The hot liquid flowed from my cheek and dripped to the floor of the shelter cabin storeroom, marking it where they fell. At that instant, a voice came from behind me. Kokoro. Frantically wiping away my tears, I tried to plaster on a smile before turning around, but I didn't do a very good job. It just looked like I was smiling through my tears. You're making a weird face. I'm sorry. I'm the older one here, so I shouldn't be crying. No, you can cry even more. Did you know? The tears that always flow out, so your eyes don't dry out, and the tears that come out when you're troubled are different. The composition of the tears is different, like the calcium levels for example. They differ a lot. If you scream wah and then cry when you're sad, you'll feel much better, right? When you're crying, your body's calcium balance is readjusted, so you'll feel refreshed. When you want to cry, you should cry. I was struck dumb by Yuni's explanation. Is that true? Yep, it's true. That's why you should jump into my chest and cry as much as you want. Don't hold back. Come on. Yuni sticks out his thin chest and spread his arms. Geez, I completely lost the will to cry. Were his explanation and actions all to distract me from crying? Or did he do it unintentionally? Yuni's cheeks puffed up in an expression befitting his age. What's with that? Boring? Yuni put on a displeased face. Ha! It's so mean to laugh. Sorry. Yuni approached me as I apologized, and then he took my ration can from me. Huh? What are you doing? Don't worry about it. Then he poured the food from his own can into mine. Let's both share this can. Why? When Kokoro gets hungry, it's alright for you to eat a lot. And when I get hungry, I can take a lot too. Yuni passed the can over to me. It felt heavier than before, when it only contained my share. Together we both have this much. If you think of it that way, then it's like we're still okay, right? Yuni. Right now it's really insecure and disheartening. But we're not alone. We're not alone. With those words alone, we'll forget our hunger. I silently put the can of food on the shelf. And then I took off Yuni's glasses. You wouldn't. Yuni. I hugged Yuni's thin body to me. Tightly, tightly. It hurts. Thank goodness you're here with me. Thank goodness I'm not alone. No matter what happens, I'll protect Yuni for sure. I shouted it out as I hugged him close. That's my line. Yuni continued talking in a strangely adult tone. Because I'll save Kokoro for sure. Thank you. Jeez, you're such a boy. I hug him even tighter. I'm gonna die. Warming inside, I happily felt Yuni's gentle warmth. Like a beast running away from a flame, his warmth made my fear of death disappear. And then Yomogi joined us. A group hug? Can I join in too? Yuni jumped backward. I like Seiji, but I'm not in the habit of hugging bearded old guys. Stingy? If I could, I'd rather not get a hug from Fuyukawa. I'd rather get a hug from Fuyukawa-san though. Hey, it's just a joke. Laughing, Yomogi held up his can of rations for us to see. I heard your conversation now. Can I put mine in too? Let's share 3 people's worth of food between us. Okay, sure. Great. If we keep on splitting equally, I won't be able to give either of you 2 my food. Why? If I can't just give it to you 2 and not give Mayuzumi anywhere, right? Unlike her, you guys are behind by 1 piece of chocolate. I thought I should give you some of my portion before you started weakening. Yomogi placed his own rations in my can. The biscuits were piled up inside the can. It felt like it would overflow. When I lifted it, it felt heavy. It was quite a weighty feeling. Yomogi rubbed his chin while staring at the heap of food inside the can. If we have this much, it feels like we could live off it for an entire month. I don't want to stay here for that long. What we couldn't fit inside, we divided among ourselves and had for tonight's dinner. The meal the 3 of us ate, while standing there, was delicious beyond imagination. It was only a handful of dry biscuits, but I was very satisfied. My heart, rather than my stomach, was appeased. These rations, Yomogi handed me the can. You hold on to them for safekeeping. Me? No, because the lady will kill me and then take it. No, you take it. I don't think I can carry out such an important mission. I pushed the can back at Yomogi. Please safeguard it instead, Yomogi-san. That's fine, right, Yuni? Of course, no objections. I see. Got it. I'll take responsibility and manage it. With that said, Yomogi took a final bag out from an emergency kit inside his storeroom, and then he wrapped the can up and sealed the bag. This is to prevent it from getting damp or spilling, just in case. Holding the can as if it were of great value, Yomogi favoured us with a gentle, fatherly smile. We're gonna survive. Right. He climbed back upstairs. Yomogi-san is such a good person, so why doesn't Mayuzumi believe in him? Tobilin's mind is twisted like a screw. Geez, if I'd known Lin was that kind of person, I should have told Seiji before we even reached the cabin. To throw that jerk away. Yuni muttered his complaints in a small voice. You shouldn't say things like that. As Yuni rebuked her, I suddenly became curious. You didn't know Mayuzumi-san until you met her after the accident, did you, Yuni? Of course not. What are you saying? Yuni looked at me in confusion. I think of the shelter's cabin Yuni is future Yuni. If he'd already experienced the accident at the shelter cabin once before, Yuni should already know Mayuzumi. However, he said he didn't know her. It seems like what this child was saying is a lie. Was this Yuni not the future Yuni? I tried my best to ask. Have you ever been to a place called SPHIA, Uni? Uni replied, tilting his head. What's SPHIA? A game center? No, if you've never been there, then never mind. I slapped Uni's shoulder and put one of my hands on the ladder. Alright then, I'm going up. If we stay down here for too long, they might get suspicious. They might say, maybe they're doing something dirty. I fixed Uni with my most erotic, or at least I thought it was, look. I don't think it was very mature of me, but I thought I'd get revenge. Before, when he said something similar, I was really embarrassed. However, Uni just shook his head. That's not sexy at all. It's worth about 2 points. Out of 5? Out of 100. Well, how mean! I hurried up the ladder while jokingly pretending to cry. In actuality, my innermost feelings were hurt a little, but that was a secret. Oh man. The timing. The noise that murders my ears. Alright, we're gonna wrap this one up here, because we're out of time for today. But I still think we should throw Mayuzumi out of the cabin and into the snow. She can go live in the fucking wreckage of the plane or something, as far as I'm concerned. Ah, man, I can't stand that bitch. Anyway, thanks for watching, Bruce, and I'll see you in the next one.